Welcome to the second episode of the Paranormal Sessions podcast. My name's David Granato. I'm a true psychic medium and paranormal investigator. Now, this is part 2 of Four Fingers, and I'm just going to continue from where I left off on part 1. So if you haven't seen the first part, it might not make some sense. But after who I call kind of like the glowing man that was in the purple light, when he disappeared, I didn't really see too much change in the activity. It was still pretty much consistent, but within a short period of time, the activity really escalated. In fact, I believe, now of course this is 9 years ago, so I could be off a little bit with the time frame, but I believe maybe 2 or 3 weeks after the man in the purple light disappeared, I get up on a Saturday morning and I'm sitting, I sit up and my dresser's to the right of me with a mirror. And as I sit up, I look in the mirror and the mirror would face in I guess that would be the southwest corner of the room or southeast corner of the room. I see a little bit of sunlight's coming through the windows. Like I said, I always have, heavy curtains to keep the room as dark as possible. And there's a man standing in the corner. He's probably 6'4", 6'5". He's a big man. You can tell he's kind of like a strong farmer. And he's got a hat on, and it looks like the hat, and this is educated guess, I think it's from around the 1800s. And he doesn't really have a face. He has the outline of a head, and he's, the jacket he has on, it kind of looked like, I think, like of a Quaker, but I could be completely wrong. So anyway, I wake up and I see this man in the corner of the room. So of course, at this stage, I'm still not, I'm still getting scared a lot. So I lay back in the bed and I put the covers over. And I leave a little gap so I can see through, because I'm pretty scared. So I see the man walk by, and then he goes down the hallway. And, that shook me up. First thing in the morning, I'm already seeing someone standing in the corner of my room. Well, I never saw him again, but then I noticed after that, my visions got a lot darker, and I saw a lot more evil activity. Like for my visions, after after I saw the man, walk in front of my bed and then down the hallway, I had this vision, and I always kind of viewed him as like a stalker, because I had a vision of him, I think it was like the next day or the day after that I started having visions with this man. He was a bald-headed man, he had a beard, it was closely trimmed, and he was always facing me when I saw the vision. And in the beginning, I was seeing him 2 or 3 times a day. He never tried to talk because I didn't see his lips move. So he wasn't trying to talk. He would just look at me, and it'd last for 4 or 5 seconds, then he'd be gone. Then later in the day, I'd see him again, and then again. So I imagine this was maybe a 2 or 3 week span, I probably saw him 15, 20 times. But of all those times, he never talked. And he didn't really look evil, but I kind of got the sense that he was. But it was the strangest thing. After that, after that 2 or 3 week period, I never saw him again. So I don't know if he was the man in the purple light, and it changed, to have him show himself like this. That's the only thing I can think of, because why would he, never talk to me? He didn't try to look like he was trying to scare me, but he did kind of look, at least I saw him as viewing as kind of as threatening, but he never did say anything, which I found really odd, especially over that many times that I saw him. Now, in regards to the paranormal activity, and of course I started around the same time with visions of, what I call the stalker. I start seeing a lot more. And I had kind of, and I hate to use this term, I don't know if I was in sync with them or something, because they knew I could see them. And once they knew that, they could do whatever they want, because they know I can't very well, not see them. And so I think it was about over a month, I'd be in bed, and then of course I'd have a fan on, so it's, you don't hear a whole lot from even in the hallway. So the first time it happened, it was, I don't know, like on Monday night or something. It was something during the week, and I hear the doorbell ring, and it's like, I don't know, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. I thought, who's ringing the doorbell? So I get up out of bed, go and turn on the porch light. There's nobody there. And I thought, well, maybe I thought I heard something, but I really didn't. So I go back to bed. Then about a week later, it happens again. I hear the doorbell ring, walk out in the hallway, go to the front door, turn on the porch light. Nobody's there. And by the third time, I realized there's not really anyone at the door. It's actually the evil spirits are playing that sound in my head of a doorbell ringing. So when the third time happened, I go, no. I mean, I had woken up thinking that the doorbell had rung, and I thought, no, I think they're just trying to, not really terrify me, but just mess with me. And so I said, no, I'm not getting up, and I went, basically fell back asleep. And they never did it again, because they probably figured, I'm just going to keep getting up, and that's how they'll, slowly start to irritate me, among other things. But by the third time, I realized they're just trying to, have me tired all the time, and then with all the activity. And when I talk about the activity that was increasing, I don't know, it was because they were more willing to show themselves more, or that as I was trying to understand and I don't know if understand it, but try to see more and understand what I'm trying to, or understand what I'm trying to see, because then I start seeing flashes of them, usually in the foot of the bed, or sometimes I'd see them over by the curtains. And normally I didn't see the whole evil spirit. I would see like parts, like a head and maybe from their waist up. And then other times they would just go back and forth. And, that's a lot to deal with, because, after the Purple Man, that was pretty upsetting. And then I have the stalker and the vision, and then the activity increasing. Well, I'm sure what they're trying to do is just terrify me. And there was days that I get pretty scared, but like I had mentioned in part 1, after a period of time, you start slowly getting desensitized, because they would do this, and then they'd do it 3 days later and 5 days later. Well, after about the 6th or 7th time, it's not bothering you that much, because I'm saying, well, I already saw this, and this is what happened, and whatever. But when they started flying around, well, I shouldn't say flying around, they would move fairly quickly. But then I noticed some evil spirits, they would move kind of in like a I can't even think of the word, like haltingly manner, where they would just kind of, they wouldn't like not glide, but it was like doing like stutter steps. And they started to understand. Of course, by this time I'm already starting to read books about the paranormal, and so I can get some understanding, because I had always believed in the paranormal, but I didn't realize I was going to be in Paranormal Central. And so I realized that some of them would kind of glide, and then others would go very fast, and then others, they would just, like I said, they like stutter steps. And then I finally realized, and I had read, some books that about, that evil spirits, they need they want to get as much power as they can, so they can do more things. And then I realized these people that are doing like these stutter steps, they must have recently crossed over something, because they're moving very awkwardly like it's a struggle just to halfway move, where I would see the other ones and they would not glide, but they would, kind of not float by, but something along those lines. And then there was a few that I saw, they would just shoot all the way across. And I started thinking, well, then these are the ones that must have crossed over a long time ago, because they have a lot of power versus the other ones. I mean, you could tell it was like a struggle. And this would always happen usually around anywhere from about 1 to like 4 o'clock in the morning. And so, there was times I get really shook up, but like I said, the more I saw this, I slowly started getting desensitized, but it took a while to get to that point about that. And around that same time, I started seeing, because most of the activity I saw was in my room at night. But like, there's a few other instances when I talked about it, I see, a spirit walking down the hallway, or like this man that looked like a Quaker that went by the foot of my bed and down the hallway, that. But I really didn't see much anywhere else. But after, I saw the man and the Quaker man, and then the visions with that, like I like to call the stalker, I started seeing flashes around the house. And most of the time it would be like a black, like a sliver, and it would shoot by. And I just assume, of course, that's evil. But there was a few that I saw that was white, and I figured, well, those must be, the good spirits, and versus the evil ones. And so one of the visions I had a little bit later was kind of a defining moment for me, because a lot of the visions I would see them and it just wouldn't make any sense. But the one I saw that was rather disturbing, and I thought about doing this as a YouTube short, but you really wouldn't be able to get everything in. So this vision starts off, I'm in a large basement, and I assume it's like basement of a large company or some kind of facility, because it's huge. And you see these like pylons that are probably 4 feet across, and they go up maybe, I don't know, maybe 15 or 20 feet. And as I'm watching the vision, it goes from that one pylon over to the right, and then it came back, and then it starts turning to the left, and I see these large, they look like blocks, and it's kind of a burnt orange, and they're huge. So the blocks are across maybe 4 or 5 feet square. I mean, they're huge, and they're stacked up, and of course in the vision I can only see like maybe 3 blocks up, which would be roughly 15 feet in height. And so the first time I see the vision, it shows the wall, and there's like a dim light. And what's really odd is I start walking towards the wall, and the light gets brighter so I can see better, which I'd never seen that before. But as I get closer to the wall, it seemed like there's some spots on there. But when I get really close, at least within the vision, it's, and my, from what I've seen from true crime shows and all that, it looked like blood splatter, or spatter, not splatter, spatter. And it's maybe it covers maybe about 2 feet circular. And I see the blood spatter for, I don't know, this is a little bit longer vision. It probably lasts maybe 15, 20 seconds. And when I see the blood spatter, I'm able to look at it for maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 seconds, and then it disappeared. So, I'm a little shook up. I said, this is not good. This is blood spatter on a wall that had to be in some office building or industrial complexes. I mean, the basement, from what I can see, is huge. So maybe 3-4 months later, I see the exact same thing. I see the large pylons and the basement. There's just a little bit of light. I mean, not much. and then it pans to the right, and I see the other pylons, and then it moves to the left, and I see the orange block wall, probably maybe 8-9 feet away, and with a dimly lit light. And then I start walking, or in the vision I start walking closer to the blocks, and I see the same blood spatter. And I thought, well, maybe I'm eventually going to see what happened before or what happened after. But I never saw it again. So I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm totally wrong that it wasn't blood spatter, but that's what it sure looked like to me. But of course, I'm not some, forensic analysis person or something like that. So, but it sure looked like to me. And most of the visions I've had, they don't, I don't see them more than once. I mean, there's a few that I've seen twice, but usually it just one time, like the one with the stalker, I must have saw him, 15 or 20 times. So that was kind of the exception to the rule. And the other big change was, I'm in the computer room, where I am like right now, and it's during the day, and I think it's a weekday, I'm not sure. But anyway, I had the door closed in my room, and my dog, he was alive at the time, it's a German Shepherd, and I'm in here doing something, I forget, something with computers, because I taught myself how to build them, and just to see if I could do it. But anyway, I hear this rattling, like someone's like hitting the hamper against the drywall or something. So I walk in, and the hamper's on the floor, and Sandy, who was my German Shepherd, he probably weighed, he wasn't a purebred, so he only weighed maybe 50 pounds. But he's looking at the hamper, and he's shaking. And I just realized, I go, that's the first time I've had an evil spirit actually do something that would generate sound. I mean, but when they put the idea that their doorbell's ringing, that's something similar. But I mean, I actually heard this in the other room, and when I saw my dog shaking and looking at the hamper, I knew things were starting to change, because that had never happened before. I mean, the doorbell, putting that sound in my head, that's one thing. But when my dog was getting scared, and I'd never seen her scared before, because she was a very hyper dog, but she was in there shaking and just staring at the hamper. So I knew, things were going to change, and it was going to be changing for the better. I knew right then and there it's going to start getting worse, so I better prepare myself. One thing I should mention, because mostly everything that I discuss is evil, but there has been some good things, and for whatever reason, I think there is a little boy or a little girl that passed over, and they don't realize that they have, because when I would go to sleep, and they started around that same time, I would get in bed, and I would feel the bed gently kind of like undulate, like there are like a little boy, little girls at the end of the bed, and they're kind of playing, and they're pushing on the bed, and they just move it just a little. And that happens almost every night. The last few years, there has been breaks, but it wasn't really that big of a deal. It wasn't like it was keeping me awake. And the ironic part is, the times that I would that I would get in bed, and I'd wait for the bed to kind of rock a little bit, and then I'd go to sleep. If it wasn't rocking, and then I'd say, well, that's weird, they haven't decided to rock the bed, immediately it would start rocking, just a little bit. But I've only seen bits and pieces of flashes, of white. So and I've never seen them, whole, just these little slivers, and I hardly ever see them. So I think it's a little boy or a little girl that they're actually playing, because I'm sure if it was evil, they'd be trying to rock the whole bed, so I'd be awake the whole night. But even to this day, I think the last time that happened was maybe a month and a half ago, 2 months ago. But in the beginning, it was happening every night. And after, maybe the 32nd time or something, it didn't really matter. I just go right to sleep, because it was, I had the impression it was just like someone just teasing me, trying to, rock the bed like it was a little boy or a little girl. But I always thought I'll eventually see them, but I never did. So, that's one of the good things, I guess I could say, because I know most of the things I'm going to discuss, and like I have and that I will have, it's about 90% bad, and there's only just a little bit of good. But it's not like I can pick and choose, what's going to happen. But after I saw the Quaker leave the room, that's when things started getting a lot more intense. When I'd be in bed, I could just feel like they're waiting to move or whatever. And of course, the more they move, like I said, I don't like using that term, but I'm kind of like in sync with them, because it's almost like when they started moving, I'd wake up. So I don't know if it's because I'm in sync with them, or they're putting the idea in my head to wake up that, I'm trying to terrify you, which I tend to think that's probably what it is. But after a period of time, when I see so much, they can try to do that, but it doesn't have the same effect as when I did in the beginning, where I was like, scared all the time. And during this time with the little boy or little girl who's rocking the bed, that was when I was still trying to go to sleep with the lights on, but for whatever reason, I couldn't fall asleep like that. I just had to turn off the lights, and that was horrible. It's bad when you don't even want to go to sleep. And I thought, if I could go to sleep with the lights on, maybe things won't be so bad. I'm just about ready to wrap this up, but one thing I did want to mention, I never did see that little girl from part 1 where I saw her 4 fingers underneath the door. So I'm pretty positive, when I thought about it over the years, that she came over when I saw her that day at my friend's house. They followed me over, and at the time I didn't know about how to protect yourself and all that, because I was always big on the paranormal, but I didn't know that I'd be like dropped right in the middle of it. I just assumed I'd watch it on TV. Oh, that's really cool, I don't have to worry about the things. But then I did. But I think she's the one that came over. Of course, I don't know if it's really she, because like demons, they'll usually come across as a little boy, as a little girl, because it's easier for like children to think, oh, it's a play friend and all that, and they get kind of like accepted into a relationship with a little boy or little girl, and then they eventually turn out to do bad things. I did want to mention is that I'm going to change the setup in this room. I'm going to start filming myself at night. I think I'm going to do on Saturday nights, maybe around 10 or 11 o'clock, because I want to see if you can see some of the activity, because I've seen activity in here. In fact, make a long story short, one of the people I helped cross over, he was right underneath the desk. And that was a really odd, and it started out as a vision. And I'll probably just devote a whole episode of that, because how that came about and how he crossed over. I'm still amazed when I think about it. I don't think I did that much to help him, but I think I did. But so I am going to change the setup in my room. I'm going to get some would have like electric candles, and I'm going to put it around, and then I'm going to have black curtains, so that way you have something to see if something passes behind me. I think I'll have it in time for the next episode, or if not, worst case, it'll be the following episode. I just want to thank you for watching this episode, and I'd appreciate if you would like and subscribe. If you have any comments, whether they're negative or positive, I'd really appreciate it. And I hope you enjoyed this video. remember, there is evil out there, and I've seen it, so be safe.